did you have a group or a person, or how did that really become something
Sure.
you wanted
I've
to get good at?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people that have been mentors, whether they know they're mentors in my life or not, but people that I've watched, over the years and watched them. Mickey Love, who is the president of CJ Advertising, she was actually the COO with the
Yeah.
large firm that I worked at. So she's been in my life for over 20 years and has believed in me on all of those days I didn't believe in myself and has really poured into me. I would also say that Tim Mackey and Chad Dudley, who own Vista Consulting, that's where I learned the consulting side of
Mm.
things.
Welcome to our podcast today. We're so glad that you are joining us. And I have with me Amanda Hankins, who is the owner of Ladies Leading Legal. And she is such a fascinating and wonderful guest. I'm so excited to talk with her. Ladies Leading Legal is providing integrator operations and consulting services for law firms in the US and Canada. And Amanda has had the opportunity to work in intake services leadership and case management. And she's actually joining us to come on and talk to us today about fractional C-suite work in the age of AI. So, Amanda, welcome. Would you take just a minute and go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you for having me, Krista. I'm so excited to be on the podcast with you all. My name is Amanda Hankins. I live and work from my home in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I have been in the legal field almost all of my adult life, so I know a thing or two about personal injury especially, but I'm super excited. I'm the mom of 5. My husband's a registered nurse, and I have 2 wonderful grandkids, so we have a very, very busy life all while I am running a business.
I just love Kentucky. I have wanted to come out there for so long. It's completely on my bucket list to do the Kentucky Derby, and I missed it again this year.
Well, you make time for it.
I'm going to have to. All right. So I want to start us today with like a fun little icebreaker question. So, when we met and talked at Pilma, we talked a lot about some things that are happening in the legal world. And I know that this is often an area that I would consider to be a high pressure environment. So, as somebody who's coming in to work with law firms, what's like one unexpected habit or hobby that you might have that helps you stay really grounded or relaxed?
I spend a lot of time with my grandkids, but the thing that really helps me professionally, I have a small Facebook group for Ladies Leading Legal. So there's about 225 females that I have met or been introduced to over the years that I've been in the industry. I created this a couple of years ago, and it just slowly spread. So it's a place that I go to pretty often, especially if I have imposter syndrome or if I want to vent. I have this great network of women that are powerful in my life. We share wins, we share struggles and challenges, we share conferences and podcasts and all of that great information. So from a professional standpoint, that's probably my crutch. I spend a lot of time problem solving for other people, and it's my way of being able to connect with a group of women that I trust, especially in our legal space, that can help, guide me. And honestly, truly, they think that I'm a mentor to them, but they're all mentors to me.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You just touched on something that I would say probably every single one of us has had at one time or another, and that is imposter syndrome. So, and I think no matter how much you grow in your career, we all suffer those moments where we feel like maybe we're just not, doing enough. Can you share for us a little bit more what that feels like for you, the imposter syndrome? And I'd just
Sure.
love to hear more about that just off the cuff.
I think it's, I grew up with a single mom, so I was always encouraged and empowered that women could do anything. And until I got older and a few more gray hairs, I didn't realize the struggles that females have in the workforce. And being a non-attorney female in the legal industry is even, I think, that much more difficult. Most of the people that we interact with on a regular basis, or at least I do, firm owners are typically males, and they're ran by females lots of times. So that's where my connection comes in. But I think that my background and my history that I could go into is, more of that question of why me? why are they listening to me? They've been to law school, they've done these things, but it truly comes from the operational side of things. And I have to remind myself that this is a business that happens to practice law, and they didn't go to business school necessarily. They went to school to be lawyers, and running a business is completely different. So I think that's where it creeps in pretty often, of that whole why am I here? And I just have to keep reflecting back on that. I'm on this journey for a reason, that my faith has taught me that everything is going on for a reason, a higher purpose. And then I
Yeah.
just, like I said, I draw from all of these women that I have met in my 20 plus years in the legal industry, and that I keep going back to who I have mentored and watched them grow in their careers. And it grounds me back to that I am where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. So you're working with firms, and I think when you're coming in too, I'd love to explore a little bit more about some of the hesitations maybe that you're experiencing when you're coming in with firms, especially where technology is concerned. But I think one of the directions I want to go with that is if you see a difference in the hesitation level between women and men when it comes to the adoption of technology, like even as much to, hey, we'd like to use a VA on our team. You had mentioned that you're feeling some pushback in those instances. So could you touch a little bit on what you think is behind that hesitation, maybe on the female side versus the male side, if you think there's a difference?
I honestly, in that realm, I don't think that there's a difference. I think that it's typically, like I said, I've been in the legal industry for over 20 years. And in my opinion, the legal industry has always been a little bit behind the times on things, whether it was embracing any kind of technology over the years, going from case management systems that were server-based to cloud-based, like all of the different things where we would see other industries running circles around the legal industry. So I don't think it's necessarily a male versus female. I think it's just the legal industry in general has always had a hesitation of embracing any type of technology.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So one of the things that we talked about previously was neither one of us feel like AI is necessarily here to edge out humans. In fact, at Practice AI, we are, building an AI forward platform, which is designed to enhance the human experience. So when we talked about AI coming in to help elevate the firm, you had mentioned that it should elevate it back to the highest and best use of their time. So what does that mean to you from a firm leadership and staff perspective today?
I wish that I would have had the technology that people have now. I sound like I'm an old person, right? That I'm reflecting back on when I was in my 20s. I wish I would have had ways that I could use automation to, whether it was reminding a client about an appointment, helping with demand letters, following up on medical records. I just think back to how much more productive I could have been in the time whenever I was a case manager and paralegal and running a large intake department. I was very fortunate that early in my career, the law firm that I spent the most time with, I spent about 12 years at one large PI firm in Kentucky. They were very forward thinking. So that's how I learned to problem solve and use those type of tools, even back when it wasn't normal. So I think that it was ingrained in me early on. I didn't realize at the time that was really part of my DNA too, that problem solving and wanting to help structure and organize things. I know a lot more about my personality now after doing several personality assessments. So I know not everyone is wired like that to want things a certain way, like a drill sergeant, but I definitely have learned that over the years.
So when you're coming in to work with firms, I would imagine a lot of this comes down to your ability to really get in there and consult, really drive change, comes down to the ability to gain trust and to get buy-in from leadership. So will you talk a little bit about what role trust and leadership buy-in plays with the work that you're doing and with getting firms to kind of be on board a little bit more with technology? Because you're right, we're seeing it too. There is some lag. And specifically where we're at, we have the two camps, the ones like, yes, AI, this is great. And the other is like, absolutely not. We've seen Terminator. We're not going anywhere near it. So I'm just curious, what does that look like from where you sit?
When I talk to firms, I try to remind them that, and a mentor of mine taught me this a long time ago, that AI isn't going to take over the world, but people who understand and embrace AI are going to take over the world. So trying to get them to understand that there's always, we're human beings. We were built and created to want to interact and have conversations with one another. So it's never going to go away. It's just a matter of trying to help them understand how, if we can take off of Sally and Sam's lap all of these repetitive tasks that they're doing. And that gives them that much more time to be able to have those phone calls, be more empathetic, and build relationships with their clients. So I think that lawyers go to school and they're trained to challenge everything. So it's just in their DNA to challenge, whether it was, apples or oranges or whatever that might be. And I love the excitement of being able to show a firm owner that how I can. It's at the end of the day, it's the bottom of the dollar, right? Like, how can I help save you money? And it's not necessarily about removing people from their payroll. It's about showing them how they can work smarter, faster, more efficiently. I'm constantly looking at reports for time on desk and being able to show them that being able to use an AI platform for demand writing, and instead of it going from your client finishes treating and it takes us 45 or 60 days to push a demand out, where we can actually push that in a couple of weeks, and to show them the money that is saved, not just for them, but for the client. It's, in the client's best interest to make sure that we are working as efficiently as we possibly can for them.
So what would you say is one of the most challenging objections that you might have ever faced, when it was like you could see the firm, you could see the inefficiency, you have the right solution, and there's still that feeling of resistance? What could you give us an example of one?
Sure. So, and it's not a gender thing, it's not an age thing. And when it comes to who is embracing technology and who is not, I give an example lots of times that, my 77-year-old dad has an iPhone and he understands text messages and things like that. So, an intake team members want to push back and say, no, we can't do any type of digital signature. They don't understand that. So, you have to teach the team members that you're working with that this is not an option. You have to take those things off the table, that this is our first line of defense, is how I talk to team members about that, especially. It's really important, especially as a service provider for law firms, being in that fractional role. I don't call any of us vendors. I call us service providers, because it's what we're doing, is to build that relationship first and foremost with the team. If I have that opportunity to make sure that they understand, hey, I've been in your shoes. I literally started as a receptionist when I was 17 at a law firm. So I know the things that they were going through, and to be able to show them that we're trying to help them, again, work smarter, not harder, all those cliches that we talk about. But you have to build the trust with the team first, because we all know law firm owners go to conferences, they come back with a million ideas. And I used to be in the shoes of team members too, where it was whiplash. Some bright idea would come in, and I would stick my feet in the sand and say, what, if this sticks around for 6 months, maybe I'll believe in it then, because we would change so much. I think that's where that trust comes in, that your team needs to trust that leadership has done their due diligence, that is not a fly-by-night, kind of decision that they're making, that they've really put the training behind it too. I think that law firms are notorious for making a decision, saying, hey, we're going to use this tool, and they've been through this experience before, and no one trains them on how to use the tool. I remember back when the Medicare portal first, was kind of launched, and no one really taught us how to use those simple things. So I think it comes back down to, making sure we explain the why to the team, and, just remember that they're all people. But at the end of the day, I think that if you have a culture of trust within your firm, and they trust leadership to make good decisions and not fly-by-night decisions, and that's where you're going to see the best results.
I loved what you said. You started to talk a little bit about your background and starting out 17 at a PI firm. So will you tell us a little bit more about what drew you into wanting to be a fractional consultant? Because I find this to be very, very fascinating. I feel like there's an element of education and teaching, but then also a little bit of, I do kind of know what's best. Mm-hmm. So you are that trusted advisor. How were you drawn into that?
Yeah, I didn't, I took the job just literally because it was there was the guys on TV in our town and there was a receptionist job. And I thought, I can do this. And then surely I went from receptionist to working in the social security department to an intake department. And it just kept going on and on. It was typically our COO. Anytime that there were any type of problems, I became the problem solver. Amanda, hey, let's go check on this department. We don't know what's going on over here. Can you give us some insight? And I have a Word document somewhere that actually has all of the job titles that I had during my tenure at that firm, just for me to reflect back on how I grew. So it was happenstance, right? It was where I started at, and I probably could have done this if I was, selling tires somewhere. I would have figured out a way to make sure we were efficient and we treated our customers right and all those things. I just happened to land in the legal industry, and I just get it, and I love it, and it's the problem solving piece of it that I love so much, and the compliance and process. It just happened to be in the legal industry. But like I said, I've been since I was 17, so just a few years in the legal world.
Sounds a little bit James Bond with some
Yes.
strategy thrown in, like
Yes.
trying to get into the middle of it, trying to understand it. So I imagine that for what you're doing, you've got to build partnerships. You have to really know who you can trust to bring in and recommend to your clients. And that this requires a lot of upfront work on your part, some strategy, some research. So what kind of partners, I want to do this two ways, first starting on your side of the fence and then over to the law firm. What kind of partners do you feel like are essential for you? And then on the other side, what kind of partners do you believe are essential for law firms that want to, scale right now with AI in the mix?
I think it's really important for both ways since, I very much believe that a law firm is a business that happens to practice law, and I am a business as well. So the same things I'm looking at for myself, I'm looking at for them. So anything around technology, operations, and training, those are my three top things I'm constantly looking at to figure out how to streamline things. So, from an operational standpoint, my main thing is consolidation. I'm trying to figure out how I can consolidate. So if I come into a law firm and I'm consulting with them and I find out that they're using, 5 different programs to chase leads, right? Maybe they don't have a case management system that has everything already all encompassed, or they've hired an attorney and they really like this demand writing tool, and we're going to allow them to bring that over, and we're going to still use these other 2 programs that we're using. So I come at it from a financial point of, okay, why are you paying for all of these different services? Why don't we we put committees together depending on the size of the firm to help make decisions on the programs that we're using. For me, it really comes down to the support that those companies, those providers are giving. I think that a lot of times back to, going to conferences and someone has a drink or smokes a cigar with someone and that's who we end up landing with. I think that, people have the best salespeople in the industry, right? All of the different service providers are working with. But for me, it really comes down to, well, let me get my hands dirty. Let me talk with these people. Let me see how they're going to make our lives easier and simplify things rather than giving us another program that we have to teach the team how to use. Because at the end of the day, it's not the firm owner that we're trying to keep happy. We want to keep the team members happy and show them that we're finding tools to put in their toolbox to help them streamline their processes. So I would say it's really for both things. It's, for me and for my business and for them, it's tech operations and especially training platforms.
And I think too, we had the opportunity to have dinner that night at Pilma and kind of dive a little bit deeper into this. It was like, for what you're doing and the solutions that you're bringing in, it's almost 2 different conversations, right? It's the conversation you're having with the team that's going to utilize the tool. And then there's a separate conversation that you're having with the attorneys who are running the firm, who are, working in the business, but maybe not always wanting to stop, take a breath, pause for a moment to work on the business. And so talk to me a little bit about the challenges there and how you have that kind of a bifurcated conversation, because you're running 2 tracks with 2 different sets of people. And I imagine they really need to be addressed, differently.
That's the beauty of being in that fractional COO role is that, the COO is the buffer between typically the CEO, the firm owner, and all of the rest of the team. So trying and then teaching your next level of leaders too, how do you lead up and down the ladder and having those
Yeah.
conversations. So it is a completely different perspective. I think where I I have such a strong presence with the firms I work with is because I can communicate both ways. I can put my high D on the DISC personality assessment on. I can put that hat on and I can have direct, honest conversations with a firm owner. And I can have those same conversations with a team member, but because I'm DISC certified and I've been trained, I know how to communicate differently with other people and be able to have them make them understand the reason, the why behind the things that we're doing. But you're exactly right. It is too. And it's why you don't realize until you get older that those are very unique skills of being able to have those kind of conversations and not only be able to lean one way or the other. So it's something that I've grown into over the years and being in different roles in consulting and fractional work. But it's at the end of the day, honestly, for the owner, I've got to show him how we can do what's right in the best
Yeah.
interest of the client, the team, but also save as much money as we possibly can. And then for the team, I have to show them literally how we're going to help them work more efficiently and help them not have another tool that they have to learn and give pushback and all of those kind of things, but try to make it and think through it as much as we can before we launch those kind of programs.
You are touching on all kinds of things that I'm actually seeing here on a daily basis as well, even within our own partnerships team and our sales team. And I love that phrase that you used, leading up and down the ladder. So I might have to steal that and use that for myself. I really liked it. So what do you feel like was, or who do you feel like really spoke into your life in a way that started to make the concept of leading up and down the ladder something you wanted to know more about and you felt like was, really valuable for what you were doing? Did you have a group or a person, or how did that really become something you
Sure.
you wanted to get good at?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people that have been mentors, whether they know they're mentors in my life or not, but people that I've watched, over the years and watched them. Mickey Love, who is the president of CJ Advertising,
Yeah.
she was actually the COO with a large firm that I worked at. So she's been in my life for over 20 years and has believed in me on all of those days I didn't believe in myself and has really poured into me. I would also say that Tim Mackey and Chad Dudley, who own Vista Consulting, that's where I learned the consulting side of
Yeah.
things, who really just believed in me and poured into me and helped me understand that even though I didn't have a law degree, that when it came to running a business, I was much more trained to do those things than some of the firm owners that I was working with and talking to. So those three people have been so instrumental. And then so many people, so many female consultants that I've worked with at Vista and friends that I've worked with in and out of law firms and different case management systems. I love people. I'm definitely very intuitive and empathetic. I'm with other people, so I build strong relationships. But I've been very blessed to have lots of people that have believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself.
And there's another point that you're hitting on. You're bringing up so many wonderful things here. So I think it's that concept of having somebody that's speaking into your life. We don't, and if we touch back on what you said in the very beginning with imposter syndrome, I think we all do need those people who are standing and kind of surrounding us at those times, those moments when we are doubting ourselves. We're riding the line now between consulting and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think both consultants and coaches do something that's very, very needed, and that is they can identify blind spots that we have, that because we're so close to what we're doing, we may not always see it. So, how much do you feel like you ride that line between consultant and coach? And do you feel like you're crossing over, going back and forth on any type of a regular basis?
And I'll add a third in there. So I think that the fractional COO, consultant, and coaching, and I actually break it down when I give proposals to law firms. It depends on how much trust they have in me and how involved they want me to be at the firm. Because as a fractional COO on their organizational chart, I am helping make decisions. I am very much a part of their law firm. Consulting, it's more on a project basis type of thing. I'm trying very hard to understand the scope of what they want me to do, whether that's help them write job descriptions, scorecards, organize things. So it's very project driven. So maybe has a very, small number of people that I'm interacting with, maybe not even so much even the firm owner ever. It's more the COO if they have that. And then from a coaching perspective, and I really love the coaching side of things, that's where I have emerging leaders within firms that I'm really pouring into them. I'm trying to be that person I wish I would have had in my 20s and my 30s that actually genuinely cared about the success of my career and my profession and tried to coach me through having difficult conversations, telling them the books and podcasts to read and all of those things. So it is hard, and that's why it's really important. I love to I have, virtual kind of consultations with firm owners before I start working with them. I want to have as much. I almost try to talk them out of working with me because since I'm only a one-man show, I'm not one-woman show, I should say. I'm not trying to have other employees, so I have to be really selective on who I work with. So I'm trying to make them understand that what this means, and because it's my brand and my reputation as well. So if I work with someone, I want them to really be all in and really believe in what we're doing and the impact. So once I understand the scope of the work, then I can try to help guide them towards which direction. But I know you've gotten to know me a little bit. I will definitely redirect them if the scope starts shifting somewhere else. I won't let it go too far. I will make sure that we stay on track.
I like this concept you mentioned, pouring into them. And to me, that's something with the mentorship that I've had, that I've been lucky enough to have. Now we're into the realm of like servant leadership, where we're not only just asking people to complete tasks within a role, but we're actually helping them develop and grow into the role and even beyond in some cases, for their careers. So with the coaching side of things, how much do you love that compared to, maybe the fractional work or the consulting? Because to me, I felt like when we connected at Pilma, like there's this very big part of you that wants to serve others. I mean, that really came through for me. So tell me, does one side appeal more than the other? Or do you feel like it's a pretty good balance between the three?
No, you're spot on. It's the coaching side of things is what really fires me up and excites me. I can look at P&Ls and spreadsheets, and I can coach to those COO type tasks depending on what they need. I jokingly say I'm a Swiss Army knife because it gets me in trouble though too, because I have done everything from answer phones to being the COO role. So I have to really be careful. But if I had my magic wand and I could do whatever I wanted to, it definitely would be helping to coach up those who are literally in the trenches and are helping represent your clients, because depending on the size of the firm, you might have attorneys they're the main communicator with the clients, but for the most part it's probably a case manager or paralegal or a legal assistant that's having those conversations, but no one's really teaching them how to have those conversations, how to talk to a client about the medical treatment that they're receiving, and just to be really empathetic and caring. And I think that is something that I have a strong suit in, and I have a way of being able to communicate with people and help them understand that we're, maybe it's my Southern accent, I'm not sure, that, helps them, but, to remind them that we all put our pants on the same way every day and to try to teach them. But I do love working with firm owners, but sometimes firm owners, they don't want to be managed or they don't want to be helped. That's a harder thing, but it's challenging, and I do enjoy that as well.
So I think it's your belief in servant leadership and your desire to lead education first. And that really came through when we were talking. And so when we were talking about, partnership between Ladies Leading Legal and PAI, I felt like you were going to be such a wonderful partner for us to go in and actually work with law firms and help them feel the value of AI, and honestly where AI fits, because it doesn't fit in every instance. I think we all know and can agree on that. But from where you're sitting, what do you look for in a good partner? What makes someone or a company stand out to you as a good partner for what you're doing?
I think that what stands out the most for me is it's the support end of things. So like I was saying earlier, a salesperson can sell someone all day long on a program, but I need to understand what type of support is going to be provided afterwards, after and a smooth implementation, I should say that too, because I've been through plenty of implementations of programs that have not been good. But I need them to have, online training for the team members to refer to, but it's really about that support. There are a lot of still boutique type is how I would describe it, companies that are out there that
Yeah.
still, know each other. And even though I want them to grow, same as with me, I would consider myself very boutique type, business. But I want to make sure that, when I have a phone call or when your program isn't working or if your virtual assistant isn't going to work out, I want to know that I have a contact person that I can actually connect and build a relationship with. I think that that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for is what does it look like after we launch the program or after we hire this VA? How are you going to support us and make sure that we are successful in this relationship, whether it's a program or a person?
I think everything you're saying, I agree with 100%. I think it always starts with the relationship. I think the relationship should always be the key driver. And I think if you're moving forward with that in mind, you're going to stay on the path pretty well as you step through everything you want to accomplish. So,
Yeah.
well, tell me what's next for Ladies Leading Legal? Like, what are you working on right now that has you excited or, give us a little something that you've learned within the past couple of weeks.
I am really excited about I'm slowing down just a little bit. I've had, a very, very busy few months of launching my business. I've been extremely busy and I want to pour back into myself because, we all know if you don't pour into yourself, your cup cannot runneth over into other people. So I feel like that I've been so busy in the rat race for the last 10 plus years of working for someone else that, I would learn about a particular technology or a particular platform just through happenstance. And I wouldn't dig into other companies or other service providers and at least educate myself. So that's what I'm really excited about. I'm excited about spending some time actually educating myself about, when we were at Pilma, there were over 70 service providers that were there,
Yes.
companies I'd never heard of before. So
Yeah.
trying to educate myself. And I'm also, I think I hinted a little bit earlier, I just in January became certified in DISC personality assessments. And since my certification, I haven't slowed down long enough to actually continue to read all the things I need to read. So those are the two things I'm excited about. And then also, other speaking opportunities and things that I've got coming up throughout the rest of the year. So it's fun to actually think about my own business for a little while and other people while I'm trying to build my own brand. It's really important for me so I can make sure that the firms I represent, that their brand is represented as well.
You struck me as somebody who really loves to build and create.
Yes.
When we were first having that initial round of conversations, which I love too, because I'm also a builder and a creator. And so I'm always looking for that next amazing thing that I can put together, which I hope would be very helpful or supportive for somebody else who's maybe going through something similar.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us how, someone who's looking for good fractional C-suite can actually find you. So give us some information for everybody who's watching on what's the best way to find you and get in touch with you.
My email is super simple. It's ladiesleadinglegal@gmail.com. So very easy. You can find me on LinkedIn as well by searching that Ladies Leading Legal. You can search my name, Amanda Hankins, and connect. And hopefully we can maybe list my phone number and things somewhere as well. So I'm an open book. I talk to people and mentor on the side all the time, just to share ideas and communicate. So happy to connect in any way, but typically LinkedIn's probably the best way or an email to connect with me.
Awesome. Well, I'm so looking forward to everything that Ladies Leading Legal is going to do with us here at Practice AI. Amanda, thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. And I want to let you all know as well that you can find Ladies Leading Legal through our upcoming partner directory page, which should be launching very soon to our website. So you'll be able to go out there, you'll be able to click through and get information on Amanda and actually how to get in touch with her. So thanks everybody for being here today. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you make sure to get all of our upcoming podcasts. Thank you again, Amanda. I know we're going to be talking real soon.
Thank you, Krista. I appreciate you.